everything set up. Nope. I literally got home like, hi! I literally got home like 5 minutes ago. Had to rush to put everything cold in the freezer. Oh my gosh. Because I got like every single red light and every single Sunday driver. I don't even know if that's a saying in America, but we call people who are going really slow Sunday drivers in Australia. I made it. I was worried there for a bit. Okay. So hi. It's the corner of my camera. Let's get all my stuff. Today we're going to do a new stitch, which is exciting. And I don't have anything going on except for this, between now and picking up my kids. So I am not rushing anymore, which is great. Whew. Okay. But just give it a couple of minutes so I can just breathe and let people connect and all of that. I gotta switch over to that. And I need to get my pattern. I need to bring up my chat. So many things when I'm not just on Instagram. It's crazy. Whew. Okay. So what color are we going to be using today? That was me this morning during my Target run. I actually went to Target as well as Costco. So I kind of had it coming, but I did leave as soon, like I left from dropping off my kids at school. So I was out. I left the house with them before 9 o'clock. And yeah, now it's just after 12. So, oh my gosh. Alright, today we're going to be using, I think this color. Why didn't my pattern open? That's silly. We're going to be using 502, yeah. So we're going to be using this color, which is, there we go, but it's backwards. Silly Instagram. You'll be able to see it when I switch my camera over anyway. Well, let's start now. Let's get started. Alright, I'm going to move my phone and I have to set everything up. So, try and get it out of its little holder thing because it likes to grab on tight, which is good, I guess, but difficult. See the disaster that is my desk. There we go. Let me know if that works for everybody. I can't have it too close because otherwise I can't see what I'm doing. Alrighty. So, as I said, today we're going to be doing the stem stitch. We need number 502 DMC if you're following along with my original color scheme. If you're not, if you're choosing your own or one of the 3 other options that I picked up. Oh, I've got, one sec, I just saw on my stream, on the Twitch stream, that someone's talking but my Streamlabs is not telling me what's going on. Refresh chat. That's frustrating. But if I do that, nope. Okay, I will bring it up here. Nope. Dashboard. There we go. I'm really gonna have to read it from my stream itself. We say that too. Oh, you say Sunday drivers. Okay, cool. I also just got in from Costco. Nice. Okay, so hopefully that fixes over there. No, there we go. Yeah. Anyway, so we need just 2 strands of this. I've got a pre-cut bit already that has 3 strands, so I'm just going to pull out one of those. And then, yeah, we just need our 2 strands. Whichever green, I don't know, you might be doing it rainbow coloured, whatever colour you want. And we're going to do our quilter's knot. We pinch our thread between our thumb and finger, wrap around quite a few times because we're only using 2 strands still. Pull it through, and there's our knot. Ta-da! And I'm going to snip the end of that off. Oh, where's my scissors? Cool. Now, there's not as many this time. I'm like... One sec. Did I really mess that up? I did. Okay, so I've done... Yesterday I did all of them. So this one... I might quickly... Well, it actually would be not a bad thing. I can show you how to unpick if you don't have a seam ripper. So we'll do that. But first... no, we'll pick out first because that was my bad. I should have remembered that the little ones with lines. So that one and that one we got to unpick. Okay. So if you're trying to, this is not if you're wanting to salvage your thread. This is, I made a mistake and there is no saving my thread. So best thing to do would be to actually cut out the little knot at the back here. But with the way that I have my embroidery hoop situated, it's not really going to work for me. So what we're going to do is actually get really pointy scissors. So ones that have a really sharp little tip on the end. You can also get ones that have a bend, as long as it's got sharp pointy bits, and that'll actually be easier to like get underneath, but you don't have to have those. Alternatively, if you've got one, or you know your mum's or grandma or whatever has one, this is called a seam ripper, and that gets you underneath, and it's actually this bit here is really sharp. It's kind of like a little blade, but I'm going to use my little curved scissors. So we just get under and snip it out, and then all we got to do from there is just, you can keep cutting if you want, but otherwise you just pull them out. So none of you said anything yesterday, so you're obviously following me and not the pattern, which, you know, it's fine. And then I've just flipped it over and I just pull all the bits out and get the little knot as well. And that's just all our little scrappy bits that we don't need anymore. So that's one. And don't worry about the little holes. Again, you just rub it and they go away, but we're going to be stitching over them as well, so don't worry about it. And the other one we need to do is this one here. It's so much quicker to undo your work than it is to actually do your work. It's a little bit silly. Just make sure that you're not cutting your fabric at all. So I'm kind of like using the tip to make sure that I'm lifting up the tip of the scissors, sorry, making sure I'm using that to lift up the floss just slightly. Flip it over, pull these bits out, and the little knot, which I can't reach very well. Alright, now we're where we should be. Cool. I'll put my stuff back. Alright, we've got our loaded thread on a needle with a knot in the end, and now we're ready to start doing a stem stitch. That I totally meant that, by the way. I totally deliberately did that so, so I could show you how to undo your work. Anyway, we are going to come up at the base of our work. You can, for a stem stitch, you need to make sure that you're holding your thread with your non-dominant hand, I guess, or just the hand that's not holding the needle. You want to hold it away from your work the exact same way every single stitch. So because I'm right-handed, I'm going to pull it to the left, and we're going to go in really, really close, so even closer than like, or maybe as close as the little back stitches we did. So go in, but don't pull through. Actually, no, the first one we pull through. My bad. We're going to come back up. Try not to go through the knot itself, but come back up where we started. And then hold it over to the side. And we're going to... So I've come back up where I started again. We're going to go double the length of what we just did. This time we're not going to pull it all the way through. We're going to come up. I'm going to try and zoom in a bit for everybody, so you can see what I'm doing. So this is where I first came up, and then I went in here. I've come back up here. I've gone in at this point here, and now I'm going to come up at this point, which is where we went into the fabric for the first time. I'm going to pull through all the way. Now I'm going to pull my thread over to the left again, because I'm always doing it to the left, and we're going to go by the distance from where our thread's coming out of the fabric here to where it's gone back in. We're going to go that same distance up and go in. Don't pull through all the way. Come up at that middle point and pull through. We're just going to do the same thing. Go in. Don't pull through all the way. Come back up in between, in the middle, and pull through. Now I'm going to just make sure, because I've had to change my setup, if anyone has any questions. So it's a little difficult to explain, in my opinion, but hopefully it should make sense. I feel like this is really easy to kind of get in a groove with, this stitch. So we're going to come back up halfway between those two, between the 2 points where the floss is at. So this is where we've come up through the fabric, and then we're going back in to this hole here, and then we're coming up in the middle and pulling all the way through. And so you can see we've got this like nice little curl happening here. So that's our stem stitch. I'm going to go in, so we're engaging the same length between this point and this point to be this point and this point. So go back in, don't pull all the way through, come up in that midpoint and pull through. My phone keeps wanting to focus on my hand. And then to do the last point, instead of, because we're going to be going under the flower, like the flower is actually going to sit on top of it, we don't have to worry too much about it being completely even. So normally you would come back in at this point here, but I'm actually going to go a little bit further past so that I keep the little curl that's happening, and I'm going to finish it like that. And that's the stem stitch. I'm just going to move my phone out of the way so I can flip it, because my camera has a zoom function, whereas my phone does not. My phone's zoom is move the tripod closer and hope that it can focus. So as you flip over your work, you'll notice that the back of it actually looks like a back stitch, and yes, it does, because the back of a back stitch is just like a messy stem stitch, because you're not worrying about which direction your floss that you're holding is in. Trying to do this at the edge of the hoop is tricky. There we go. And then we're going to snip. So I'm going to do my quilter's knot again. Oh, except I'm caught on stuff. Ugh, come on. I bent my floss. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I like to do a big knot just for safety. Uses up just a tiny bit more floss, but I feel like there's less of a chance that it will pull through the fabric then. Alright, we're going to do the next one. So we're going to come up, and I'll move my phone in closer and do some gymnastics with my stuff. Now remember, when we start this, we've come up at the base, and then we're going to go in just a little tiny stitch and pull that through. And then I'm at the back of the fabric, I'm actually moving the knot out of the way so that I don't pierce that. I come back up where we started, and then go double the distance of the stitch that we just done along the line that we've drawn. Don't pull through, and then come up in the middle and pull through. So if you forget to do the tiny little stitch at the very start, that's okay. That purely just sort of makes it look a bit more even. Because as you can see with this one here, it tapers off to a point, whereas at the base here it's the same thickness as the rest of the stitching. So that tiny little stitch that feels like it does nothing, it actually helps very, very subtly make your stitch look nice and even. So I'm not following the same holes that I just unpicked, because I'm wanting to make sure that my stitch looks even and correct, whereas the back stitch is a bit more haphazard, really. So you can't really do like the sneaky little running stitch that we were doing yesterday, which is okay. So I'm just going to go all the way up to the top, and I'm going to do the same thing where I'm tapering it off there, and then we need to come back down to where the branch branches off and move our floss over to the side to get our needle up so that it's nice and snug against the previous stitch. And because we want the tapering look again, we're not going to do the tiny little stitch at the start. So I'm going to go in, and then I'm going to come up halfway between that. So I'm not coming up where my needles come up before, because this is a really tiny little branch. We're not going to see much, but it's going to be something. And that's all that is. Just that tiny little bit. Lovely. I need to move that up. I love stem stitch. There aren't many stitches I actually don't like, I'll be honest. Is this the point where I say I hate doing cross stitch? That's like my least favorite stitch. It's not, I'm just joking. It would be kind of amusing though, given that most of my work is cross stitch. Alright, I've still got lots of thread, so we're going to do this really long flower. I'm just going to do my quilter's knot off screen so that I can just do it a little bit quicker. When you're visually trying to gauge if you've got enough thread left on your needle, just remember that the stitch itself, you need to have at least double the length of the finished look left on your needle, because both the back stitch and the stem stitch, because it's the same thing just reversed, we're going over and 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 over, if that makes sense. So we're doubling up on ourselves going up. So you need more than double, because you need something for your needle to attach to. But yeah, just as a tidbit for you all. So again, I'm just moving the knot out of the way to come back up. Double the length of the first stitch that we've done. Don't pull all the way through. Come up in the middle and rinse and repeat. So the stem stitch lends to a lot smoother curves than a back stitch, because a back stitch is straight lines, basically, curving around a line, which, you know, if you think back to high school maths, at least for me, the shorter the line, the smoother the curve is going to look. Whereas with the stem stitch, we're literally using the thread to help smooth and curve the line that we're creating, because this bit is pulling the previous stitch. Hopefully that makes sense. So you can do this kind of stitch while you're holding your hoop in hand. You do, actually, that's something I didn't mention on Monday or Tuesday actually. You are going to want to stitch your work in a hoop or a Q-snap or something that's pulling it taut. Otherwise, because again, we need that drum noise. Some people do embroidery just in hand, is what it's called, where you don't have anything and you're just holding the material. It's just, especially for beginners, that's kind of asking for trouble. You're likely to be pulling your fabric too tight in areas and pinching it, and it's not going to look very smooth. People will be distracted by the fabric being all scrunched up and crinkled, rather than your beautiful embroidery that you're working on. Hi Nancy, I'm sorry I don't speak Spanish. I assume that's Spanish. But hello. She's over on YouTube watching. I only speak English. I speak Australian too, if that counts. Totally counts. I'm glad my chat finally kicked in. on Streamlabs, because yeah, I would have been like peering at my screen trying to figure out what that said. But I do know hola. I know that's hello. So the stem stitch is also really forgiving if you are not making your spaces very even. So this is going to be my last stitch into the flower, so I'm just going to go in and pull through. Yeah, it's a lot more forgiving because you still get that like roped look going up, but it's just not as obvious if your gaps are, or your spaces are kind of all over the place. But I wanted to, I considered doing all of the stems as a stem stitch, but I wanted to demonstrate back stitch because this is a beginner friendly learn how to embroider stitch along, and back stitch is super important to know. Plus, as I mentioned earlier, it's the same, it's just the other way, like the other side of a stem stitch. So yeah, anyway. So I'm looking at the floss that I've got left, and I'm looking at what I've got here. I have enough to do this bit, but yeah, I'll need to get some more after that, I think. You get the hang of it. You can visually measure. Okay, so we're going to come up. I'm going to need to wriggle. No, I need to actually adjust my hoop. Come on. There we go. So we're going to do our tiny little stitch. Move the knot out of the way. And then do the stem stitch. Oops. And I just had to do a double take there because I didn't come up in the right spot. You definitely want to do your best to make sure that you come up in this part, you come up in the right spot. Oh, I need to adjust both of my cameras. There you go. So I'm actually going to follow the first branch here, and then double back and keep going up. I'm gonna have not much thread left. So this time I'm actually going to go on this side, just because of where which direction the branch went up in. Oh. Apparently I'm trying really hard to unthread my needle. Follow that branch. So the main things to remember when doing the stem stitch Oh, hang on. I have the same clamp for my hoop. Do you find it difficult to secure? No. Sometimes if I haven't like stopped and adjusted it, every now and then I find that it will like undo, or it'll just become a bit loose. So, for example, during my Thursday evening streams, if I'm doing a whole bunch of stitching for the night, I'll need to make sure that I just take a sec and tighten it here and tighten it at the base. But no, I really like it. I've got their lap stand one as well, which I got as a present and haven't used it yet. Mostly because every time that I would use it, I kind of forget that I have it, I'll be honest. Alright, so that's that bit. It's looking a little messy here because I went this way and then this way and then this way. So I'm not going to unpick it because I don't hate it. It just looks different. It's, if you think about it, it's like how normal branches could look. They don't always, yeah, they have like knots and they have character. That's the word I'm looking for. But just keep that in mind, especially if you're not exactly at the same point as I am with the stitch right now. Okay. So the next thing I'm going to show you is the fact that I have one strand of this floss. What I'm going to do is called, well, it's not called a loop start, it's just threading it with a loop. So I've put my needle through the strand, as you can see, and then I'm going to grab both ends, put them together, and then my needle's right in the middle of the thread. I'm trying to get my cameras to focus on that. So it's like I've made a big loop basically, and then what I'm going to do is my quilter's knot at the very end, pull it through, and now I've turned one strand into two strands. I like to do that because, again, I can't like stress it enough. I am frugal with my thread. So instead of cutting off a whole new bit and having one random strand, I just use that. So now we can keep going. And I actually thread needles like this for when my youngest feels like stitching, because you literally cannot pull the thread off your needle because there's no tail. It's stuck on there until you cut it off. And that way she can stitch till her heart's content until she runs out of thread, and she won't have to keep stopping and getting me to re-thread her needle. But she hasn't done stitching for a little while, which is fine. Thanks, no worries. So the only thing you have to keep an eye out for when you do thread your needle like this is one side of the thread becoming longer than the other. So I just had like a little loop in one of the stitches, and I just had to backtrack one stitch to fix it. But see, you could see, I just accidentally pulled it, but you could see that one strand was trying to get longer than the other. See, you can see it here. It's trying to make it longer on this one. But I won't let it. I'm really glad that I unpicked those two bits at the start. I was thinking yesterday, this is a lot more backstitch than I anticipated. So I'm very glad I noticed that. None of you guys noticed. And then just the last one there. Flip it over. Alrighty. Now I've still got enough on this for just this tiny little one here, which is perfect. That way I don't have to cut off a whole new bit of thread. Alright, so we do our little tiny stitch to begin with. This is what I was talking about yesterday. I didn't cut off the tail of this one that I've done, and I've just pulled it through. You can see here. It's not a big deal. I can just flip my work over and pull it back through, but I'm also going to trim it off so that I don't do that again. But that's why it's a good idea to trim the tails as you go. Sorry, I didn't move that camera. There we go. I need to remember to just take a second, readjust. See, this is what I was saying. It's trying to do one of them longer, and it's very easy to fix. Just pull them both through, and then like pull it back, and then pull them both through again. And that, everybody, is the stems with the stem stitch, and all the stems just in general, which is awesome. So what should we do next? Does anyone have any preferences? Because we could finish the stem stitch. What's the time? We wouldn't finish the stem stitch, but we could do some more stem stitch, or we could do something else. What's a good one? We could do lazy daisy. Would you guys like to do a flower? Nobody's talking. You guys are all so quiet. I'm gonna have to decide, aren't I? I was trying to get you guys to pick for me, but what should we do next? So we've done all the little stems. 20 minutes. So the ones that we want to leave until later are these purple ones, because really easy to catch them while you're stitching other stuff. Actually, do we want to leave that till last? So I guess I'm talking to myself because no one's piping up with what they'd like to do. Maybe we do that now. Nah, I want to save that for later. We're not going to do French knots because that's like a whole day pretty much. We'll do lazy daisies. So this one, these petals here, it's also called a detached chain stitch, but I think lazy daisy is a much cuter name for it. And yeah, we'll do that. Now, did I do the pattern right to explain them? 10. Okay, so we need our white. Well, we need our 5200. You can use white if you like. I just really like how bright white 5200 is. And we need all 6 strands. So I'm actually going to, because I've already got a pre-cut bit of this, because I just have it on skein. And I have pre-cut 3 strands already here. So I'm just doing that same trick I did where it's looped around my needle. And I'm going to tie the knot here. So I only need to wrap around twice. I'm just making sure everything's getting focused. I only need to wrap around twice because this is now 6 strands. We're no longer just doing 2 strands. And I'm going to trim all that tail bit off. And then we are going to get started. Move my little fox out of the way. Now the main thing to note is, and I'll show you with this piece here, is the lazy daisy has 2 ends of the stitch. So one end has the little like tacked down bit, and the other end is where you come up and down into the fabric. So where you come up and down into the fabric is going to be more of a point, whereas the little like stitch that tacks it down and holds it in place is going to be rounded. And that's why you can see they all have these little like curved bits on the ends. A lot of people do it the other way around. I think that this makes it look more petal-like. Hi, over on Twitch, hi. So I have Twitch and YouTube and Facebook and Instagram all going at once. So I'm kind of saying where everybody's saying hello from. All right, so we're going to start over on this one, which I need to move this camera for. Oh. Okay. So we're gonna loosely follow the petals that we've drawn out. We're gonna come up in the middle of the flower. We're gonna hold our floss. We're gonna come back down in the same spot. With one of my fingers, I'm actually moving the knot out of the way so that I don't go through the knot. And then we're gonna come up. Come on, we're gonna come up at the other end of the petal. We're gonna loop our floss through, we're gonna put our floss through the loop and pull away from the stitch itself. That way we've pulled the actual stitch tight, but not too tight. You don't want it to be like choking. Tight enough that it does leave a little bit of a gap, but that's okay. If you don't like how that looks, you can do a tiny little stitch in the middle to fill it. That's fine too. But we want it to be, the floss goes around the back here. So we're pulling it this way, and then we're gonna go back in to the fabric on the other side of the floss, and that just tacks it down. And that is a lazy daisy. So we're gonna come back up in the middle of the flower. We're going to go back in the same spot. I'm going to move that knot again. Pull through. Poke the needle through the floss. Pull it until you can't pull any more through. And then tack it down. Now if you don't like how it looks in the middle of the flower, don't stress. We're going to be doing French knots over the top of it anyway. So come through, loop it through your fabric, pull it, remember pull it away from the stitch. If you pull it away, if you pull it towards the stitch, you're actually going to go like this. And then you don't have a lazy daisy. To fix it, you need to actually loosen the thread or the floss, which is not easy, but I wanted to show you what it would look like. There we go. So pull it until it's tight-ish, and then tack it down. So just a reminder, if you've got any questions, let me know. If I'm going too fast or too slow, that's not a problem, let me know. But yeah, if you're searching for this on the internet, you can search either lazy daisy or you can search detached chain stitch. Oop. What's going on? So it got twisted. If you twist it up like this, it's also not going to sit flat and sit like it's supposed to look. So if it does get a little twisted, you are going to want to just stop for a sec and undo that twist. And that's our little flower. Isn't it so cute? So that's one. I'm just starting a knot in the thread again so I can do the next one. So we come up in the middle. I'm going to move the knot out of the way so that I can go back down in the same spot, using my thumb to catch the thread to come up in between it. And see, I've got like this one little, I've got this one little strand here that's longer. I've never really found the best way to even them out, but just kind of like wriggling it around, and sometimes even just being okay with the fact that it's handmade and it's supposed to have its own little quirks. But yeah, just don't be afraid to stop for a second and just get things to sit the way you want it to. Because if you look back at it once you've finished, and then you're like, oh, this didn't sit right, and you try and fix it then, you're not going to have a good time. I'm actually about to run out of floss. I did not gauge that well. What just happened there? One side of it pulled through and the other didn't. Oh, this is a tangle. I think I pierced the floss by accident. No, it was one side went through and the other one didn't. There we go. See, I'm not happy with how that one sat, so I'm going to get a different needle and just wriggle it. And that's all we have to do. I just had to stop for a second and wriggle it to get it to sit in the right spot. And I've run out of floss, so I need to actually stop. I didn't trim that bit. That's annoying. So the next tidbit of information I can show you is about your skein of floss. So I've already used some of this, so it's a bit loose and limp. But this is your regular DMC floss. One end always has the little DMC logo and the other end always has the barcode and the number. If you don't want to wind on like these, that's okay. You can purely work from this. And what I mean by that is, if you find the tail that's on this end, the barcode and the number end, which is this bit here, and pull that while holding the rest of it just gently in your hand. I'm going to zoom out. So you hold it like this, you pull the tail, you are not going to get a knot. Oh my god, I did get a knot, but that's because I wasn't holding it properly. You should not get a knot, basically. There we go. And we just snip it. But yes, that was a hilarious. It did the thing you said it wasn't going to do. But that is how it works. If you pull the end with the number on it, for DMC, I don't know about other brands. I only work in DMC. Kind of a snob. Then yeah. Why did I pull out 3? I actually don't want to do that. I want to use all 6. So I pulled out 3 and I'm actually going to put them all back together. Some people recommend, actually there's something else I can mention. Some people recommend you actually do split your threads every single time, even if you are going to use all 6, especially when it comes to cross stitch, but that's different. Some people says that it sits flatter. I've actually never really noticed that personally, but you know, it doesn't take very long to do, so if that is something that you want to try, all power to you. I'm just getting my thread ready off camera. Alright, and it's all tangled, so I'm just gonna let it hang. Okay, let's keep going with this flower. I'm going to go a little bit faster because I would like to try and get all these done today, but I was deliberately going a bit slow. So if you need me to slow down, just let me know. Oh, bumped my microphone. So I want to sort of sound like a broken record, but I do want to remind you all that this pattern is not necessarily to be followed to a T. If you think that there aren't enough petals in these flowers, for example, go and add some more petals. If you don't want to have yellow middle of these flowers and you want to make them brown or black or something, go and do that. Oh. Just knocking everything at the moment. So there's 2 done. I'm just banging everything. I'm bashing my elbow and everything. And also, again, you don't have to cut your thread off every single time you finish an area. I just do that because I think it makes it look nicer on the back of my work, and it also stops you from having that ghosting problem where you could potentially see your thread at the back. So we'll run just a little bit over time, and we'll finish up these flowers and then wrap up for the day. And I'll be able to go and have some lunch. Because if you weren't here when I started, I barely got back from the supermarket in time because I was running into red lights and slow drivers and everything that you could think of while being out. And I also had to put some things in the freezer before I started, or else that would have been a disaster. And I love you guys, but not enough to spoil meat and like frozen vegetables and stuff like that. Well, that one looks very cute. I like how that one's turned out. That little flower. And one more. So many people jumping in and out from Instagram. It's interesting. Okay, I need to readjust both cameras. And you gotta remember to move the knot out of the way, or else you're gonna have a bad time. So, just one last time. If you've got any questions, and you're live especially, not watching this in the future, let me know, because I am about to finish up. But hopefully the lazy daisy gets easier for you as you go. I feel like once I've done a couple, I'm like sort of zooming through them a little bit. But there we go. I just got an itchy ankle. There we go. Alrighty. Do that. And do that. And I'm going to move my camera. There we go. Well, we did 2 stitches today. We learnt 2 stitches. We learnt the stem stitch and we learnt the lazy daisy, which is also known as the detached chain stitch. Hopefully you got the hang of them. Hopefully they weren't confusing. Yeah, and you're liking that we've got some flowers on there now. They're not finished flowers, but they're on there, which is good. So awesome. I'm pleased. I will have a think about what we'll do tomorrow. We might continue the stem stitch and we'll do the wording. But I'll have a think. Anyway, thanks so much again for joining in. Just double checking my chats because I have multiple to see if anybody had any questions, but nobody has any questions, so that's fine. So until I see you again, have a great day. Bye.